This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we take a look at the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 27th of March 2020, and here at the Fifth Estate, we are practicing social distancing. I hope you are too, wherever you are. I am DM.
I am Tuam.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines this morning, here they are. In the Star, first corona death, infections reach 31. In the Standard, 6 urgent actions as COVID-19 patient dies. And in the Daily Nation, curfew nightmare.
Yes.
So let's begin with the Star. Basically, we have had our first death from the coronavirus. This is a man in his 60s, Nairobi-based businessman who traveled to South Africa.
Yeah.
He showed up at Aga Khan showing some symptoms. He was discharged, but later went back into hospital, feeling a lot worse. And unfortunately, after a few days, he passed on. He also had pre-existing conditions. We're told he had diabetes. Very sad, very sad day. But also the infections went up to 31. It's also worth noting that globally, the epicenter of the virus, COVID-19, has now shifted from Europe into the United States. So the US now is leading with the 86,000 cases. China, 81,000. Italy, 80,000 cases.
Yes.
That's where we are at. So that's the Star. I'm not feeling this headline very much. But anyway, let's consider the rest. So on to the Standard.
Yes.
6 urgent actions as COVID-19 patient dies.
Yes, and the urgent actions refer to what WHO has now put out as directives to, not directives, but guidance to the world and to governments in particular. The first one is about expanding and deploying healthcare and public health workforces. The second is about finding suspected cases at community level. The third one is about the availability of testing kits. Fourth one is about treating and isolating patients. The fifth one is having clear plans to quarantine people who've made contact with COVID cases or suspected cases. And the fifth one is focusing government, all government agencies to supporting the control of COVID-19. And then, of course, it talks about what JM has just explained about the death of the first death from the coronavirus. I also happened to read an article this morning on the Washington Post by our own Gadara. Patrick Gadara, who I really like, but sometimes I think he panders to the perspectives of the West. And this particular article is titled the government strategy, something like the Kenyan government strategy is straight out of the colonial playbook. And what he's saying is that the Kenyan government is focusing on obedience, values of obedience rather than consent when it comes to messaging and directives around the COVID-19 pandemic. But what I thought upon reading this article is that if, you see, Gadara is telling us that the government suffers from a colonial heritage. If the government suffers from a colonial heritage, the public also suffers from that same heritage. Unfortunately, and I know it is politically incorrect to say this, but this is not the time for political correctness. The majority of Kenyans respond to AMRI and not negotiations.
I agree.
And this is a time when we call on the president, as the Fortal School of Government, to hate love. This is a time when he should be very decisive and drastic in the actions that he takes. He'll be loved later.
We'll appreciate him for that.
When we survive this thing. The other thing is that this is also the time when the axis of evil congregates. This is the time when we become vulnerable to things like terrorist attacks, because we are grappling with something that can be very, debilitating. So do all the bad things at once. It's not a time to be loved.
Absolutely.
Just before you go, I've got to remind our viewers the 3-part criteria that we use to judge these headlines. Are they topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally thoughtful or just plain lazy? 6 urgent actions as COVID-19 patient dies. Not really, not really. I think we toss that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy all the tossing today, John.
I tell you. Okay, so Tuam, tell us about the Daily Nation.
Yes, Daily Nation is telling us about there's going to be a nightmare because of a curfew. And I'm telling them, get used to it. You see, Daily Nation is telling us there will be 4 things that that will make Kenyans fear. The first is an enforcement riddle, which I agree with them. If you're caught violating the curfew, then you are committing a criminal act, and therefore you go to jail. But if you go to jail, you're much more likely to meet other people. How likely are you not to spread COVID-19?
Yeah.
I do not know. But second is a logistics headache, which they have mentioned, that NYS, prisons and all that. I'm like, media, it is not your job to tell Matiang'i how to do his job. So let him think about that. Third, it's a retailer's dilemma. They're saying that supermarkets will remain open throughout the curfew period. So they're asking, where will the buyers be? But fourth is commuters' woes, that many Kenyans will be left stranded as matatu operators keep off roads. And as I said before, please get used to it, because this is an unusual situation. Where the hell are you going if at all you've been told there's a curfew? Please remain in your houses.
It's worth reminding the nation that the last time we had a countrywide dusk to dawn curfew was after the 1982 coup. And if you were caught out after dusk, you were dealt with severely.
Yes.
And the public curfew is anchored in the Public Order Act, which says that if you contravene the order, you are liable to a fine of 10,000 shillings and a 3-month imprisonment or both. So maybe what Matiang'i should do to curb that logistical nightmare you're talking about is to put in a GSU truck or a military truck a judge, a policeman, and all the other people that are required to conduct a summary court case. A summary court case.
And all of them wearing gloves and masks.
Absolutely. So that if you're caught out after dusk, you're given a summary judgment on what needs to happen.
Absolutely. But guys, I wanted to bring in something that has bothered us here at the Federal School of Government, and it's a press release by a man called David Day. And David Day wrote a public letter, an open letter to Uhuru Kenyatta, and he said that we should do some measures, some which I agree, some which I vehemently and violently disagree with. And his premise was this. He says that Western countries are offering partial salaries, subsidies, and up to 80% in the UK. And he says that we should do it differently here. And his proposal is that we give very soft loans of about $1.2 million to our small businesses. And in turn, that they will pay a salary, minimum salary of 30,000 shillings per worker in salaries. And I sit down and I ask myself, since when did anybody borrow a soft loan to pay salaries and even have a grace period of 6 months to 12 months? You see, David Day is, I think he thought this about in paper, and in my view, he's behaving like an accountant, masquerading as an economist. And you see, the reason is, if you're going to go to a bank to ask for a loan, they will need to see how much cash inflows you get every single month. Now, if you are tied down with debt already, if you are barely breaking even, who in this world is going to give you 1.2 million shillings to transact? Basically, my point to him is, I think the measures that have been taken by Uhuru Kenyatta, just on cutting taxes itself, is the most we can do as now and as Kenyans, because we are not as rich as the West. If we are going to spur our economy, I think the best thing to do right now is just take down interest rates. That is the best we can do. But as to ask for soft loans to give to small businesses right now, I don't think would cut it.
So intellectual populism.
Intellectual populism is what he's pandering.
Is what he's doing.
Is what he's giving us.
All right. So who do we award the winning headline? I think the Nation, Daily Nation, curfew nightmare.
I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
Very good. So
keeping to the historic.
Absolutely. So that's the winning headline. And on to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. We have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge these cartoons. Are they humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and effective or just plain lazy?
Yes.
In the Standard, Gado has drawn the world, the earth, but in the form of a snail's shell.
Yes.
It's written global economy.
Yes. And
the shell, or the people of the world are in there. They have recoiled inside the shell, and they're saying, let me know when it's all clear. And of course, all around the earth is the coronavirus.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's depicting how we have we have retreated. We have retreated, and we have had to retreat physically by even staying in our homes from the virus.
Absolutely.
Not a bad cartoon, but a little boring.
A little boring in my view as well.
Boring.
Let me describe the nation. And Victor Ndula here has a drawing of a caricature of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto in a limousine, holding out fake prosthetic, actually fake legs. They're prosthetics, and the limousine is being carried by poor-looking Kenyans. And the caption there is COVID-19, 80% pay cuts. And what he's trying to tell us here is which head of state and which deputy president would readily cut off their salaries, you know, at this time and period, I mean, in this period in time. But also, yes, rich ones.
And that's what he's showing us in this cartoon.
Yeah, that's what he's showing us.
Yeah.
But also, they're doing that at Kenyans' expense, and not just Kenyans, but people who will not afford a decent wage.
Yeah, I think he's also depicting that. I think you've mentioned it.
Yeah,
that the Kenyans are carrying. They look like they're in a very expensive car, a limousine, but it's the poor Kenyan people that are supporting their ability to live. Or to drive very lavishly, and by them pretending to put out a limb that they had. It's just that
absolutely, which is my sentiment exactly on this whole pay cut business. It's totally ingenious and not ingenious, but disingenuous.
Absolutely,
I think that's the word.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, and
I still think they should get money from corrupt bandits. I still stand by that.
Absolutely.
Now, in the
tossed into their coffers.
Yeah, in the Standard, we have the Dr. Uhuru Kenyatta standing by a hospital bed where there's a critically ill person, evidently suffering from COVID, and Kenyatta is holding a big syringe with a needle at the end saying tax relief, and he's just about to inject the patient. Up there it says unprecedented side effects of COVID-19.
Yeah.
By the size of that needle, it looks like it would be more damaging than healing to the patient.
It looks like a rifle.
Yeah. This is a very pessimistic cartoon.
Yeah.
Those tax reliefs, those measures that we put out on the economy are much needed. Now, the people in hospital, in ICU, they will definitely need different kind of care.
Oh, yes.
And I hope as well that the government has also pumped in supplementary resources to public hospitals to create more space, more room for cases who are going to show up here.
Yeah, but of course the cartoon, the person on the bed is an analogy for the whole country, that the country is sick economically or is getting
So who do we award the winning cartoon?
I would go with as pessimistic as it is. I would go with Ndula. I like the prosthetics angle as much as I don't disagree. As much as I don't agree.
I second you.
Okay.
So that's our winning cartoon.
Absolutely. And
so, what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book we have been reviewing this entire week. It's entitled "The Secret State: A History of Intelligence and Espionage" by John Hughes Wilson. And today I was looking at chapter 38.
But before you go to him, let me just give our viewers a quick summary of what we discussed over the week. So on Monday we covered the evolution of intelligence as a profession from the olden days. On Tuesday we talked about human intelligence and spies. On Wednesday we discussed intelligence and technology. Yesterday we covered intelligence fiascos, and today we wrap it up by looking at the dangers of intelligence and what the future holds for this trade.
Fantastic.
So, Tuwe, you were telling us.
Yes, I was looking at chapter 38.
Yes.
And the focus was on cyber warfare. And he named this "When a War is Not a War." And the central thesis here was when weapon systems are destroyed without a single shot being fired. So in 2010, a cyber attack on Iranian's army centrifuges. Now, for those that don't know centrifuges, these are small capsule-like structures that hold enriched uranium. Their purpose is to enrich uranium for nuclear weapon purposes. So there was an attack that was launched on the Iranian army's centrifuges. And this attack was a malicious computer worm called Stuxnet. And the worm was programmed to disrupt the automated centrifuges. Now, by the time this worm was done, it had actually annihilated 25% of Iranian centrifuges. Now, if you know what this kind of thing can cause, what kind of harm this can cause, it's huge. Now, this attack, I said it caused 25% centrifuges, but it was designed, this worm was designed to actually attack the systems by making them spin faster, because that's what centrifuges do, they spin. Now, if they spin faster, what happens is a total tear, because you can imagine something spinning.
It spins out of control.
Spins out of control. Now, perhaps the scary thing here was that what they did not know is who did it, but the suspicion was that the state of Israel did it.
Yes.
Now, second, this worm was introduced into the system using a flash disk, and how it was actually designed was it would attack systems and machines using Microsoft Windows, both Word and Excel. Now, I mean, for those that know, is Word and Excel are widely used. And the system that it was running on was it's called, you know, Siemens, the Siemens system. Now, when this happened, and many pundits put it this way, they said this was an operation done with so much stealth, but within the simplest means. Now, in no time, maybe a year later, in 2011, an American general, a person who works at the White House was admitted to being behind this Stuxnet thing. And allow me to read to our viewers what he said. He said that we are glad, and the man, by the way, was called Gary Samore, or Samore, as a Kenyan would call it, and he was a White House coordinator for arms control and weapons of mass destruction. And he said, we are glad that they, meaning the Iranians, are having trouble with their centrifuge machine, that we, the US, and its allies are doing everything we can to make sure that we complicate matters for them. But what was most damning was at a retirement party of a general called Gabi Ashkenazi, a general in the Israeli Defense Forces. He was retiring, and they shared a video that would make him feel nice that he's retiring. And at the end of that video, there were references to this thing called Stuxnet as one of his operational success. Now, the point of this is this: you can be able to damage another army's weapon capabilities without actually having to fire a single shot.
Absolutely.
All you just need to do is put worms and malware into systems that will totally finish their defense capabilities.
That's where we're at with intelligence and the capabilities of doing sabotage. From miles away. Remotely, precisely. And I'll discuss the dangers of intelligence, which is the last chapter that the author takes us into. And he recounts a story on the 11th of January 1968 about an American spy ship known as the USS Pablo, or USS Pueblo, which left the base in Japan and headed north with orders to do two things: intercept and conduct surveillance of Russian naval activity, and gather signal and electronic intelligence from North Korea. So this was a ship that was essentially fitted with all the machinery to collect electronic and signal intelligence. But as they made their way towards North Korea, and as they actually got into North Korean territory, they were flagged down by the North Koreans. They were told to slow down and basically follow them to the coast. But the commander of the ship, somebody by the name Lloyd Butcher, he defied the order. He raised the US flag and began to maneuver for open waters at a top speed of only 12 knots. Now 12 knots is a top speed of like 22 kilometers per hour. That's how fast they were moving.
Weak wind.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
So after about 2 hours of a failed attempt to escape,
yeah.
the North Koreans lost patience, they opened fire, and they killed a crewman on board.
Yeah.
Trapped and hopelessly outgunned, we're told, the tiny and vulnerable Pueblo surrendered.
Yeah.
So the commander and the crew of 88 decided to surrender, but they panicked because on the ship they were carrying a lot of confidential documents.
Yes.
They were carrying as well, we're told, a huge quantity of communications equipment, signals, as well as manuals, which if they were handed over to the enemy would have been trouble.
Yeah.
But it was a hopeless task. They had way too much, so they didn't manage to destroy anything.
Yeah.
They were captured, taken as prisoners of war, and treated as much in North Korea.
Yeah.
Now, the trouble is that the commander himself was tortured a few times in an attempt to get him to reveal information.
Did he?
He didn't reveal anything significant, we're told.
Yeah.
And the sad thing, though, when they got back to the U.S., he also faced a court-martial. There was a naval commission of inquiry which recommended that he face a court-martial for surrendering without a fight, and for B, failing to destroy classified material. But the Secretary of the Navy, a guy called John Chaff, rejected that recommendation, stating they have suffered enough. So, two accounts of suffering here. They suffered, first of all, in North Korea. But you can see they were supposed to come back home and also suffer yet another punishment. These are the dangers of intelligence. The Pueblo is now a tourist attraction in North Korea.
In North Korea.
In North Korea.
Whoa.
It is, yes, for whoever goes there.
So another danger of intelligence that the author speaks about is that intelligence officers can unknowingly work at cross purposes with their very government. They could be doing operations where they don't know 100% what the intention is, or they think they have one intention, but the government has another. Now, for example, at the height of the Six-Day Arab-Israeli War, this was on the 8th of June, 1967, there was an American intelligence spy ship collecting information on the seas. It was called USS Liberty. Now, as this boat was, this ship was sailing towards a town called El Arish, it got attacked by the Israelis. Now, remember, the Israelis are were allied, and still are, to the Americans. The attack was massive. It caused 70% casualties on board, the biggest U.S. peacetime loss, with 34 crew members dead, most of them intelligence officers, and 171 crew members injured. Now, Israel eventually apologized for this attack, and they said that it was a case of mistaken identity. They thought that the ship was from one of their enemies, the Egyptians. So not only was it deliberate, it was premeditated. But this doesn't end there. Years later, as investigations were undertaken and as information was coming out, a lot of testimonies by the captain of the ship that was attacked and the crew members showed that these Israelis, not only did they know, but the attack was so vicious. First of all, the Israelis went for the gun mounts where the guns of the ship were and shot them. Went to the antenna, shot those. So they made them defenseless, made them, silenced them, muted them, and then they went to the bridge and shot the chief executive of the boat. So they blinded them. But as the Americans were, the ones who had survived were trying to escape from the ship and they were lowering life rafts, torpedo boats came towards them and shot them.
My goodness.
So because of this, they thought, there must be more to this. So it came out that the Israelis were about to undertake a war crime, or actually they did undertake a war crime in the direction that the ship was headed. 61 prisoners of war were being shot, defenseless, were being shot point blank by Israeli soldiers. So in the end, they admitted, okay, yes, this is what we did not want you to see, and that's why we destroyed the ship. But this was actually not the case. This was another lie. This was another whitewash. The other thing that the author himself tells us is that America itself was covering up, was covering this attack up and defending Israel. So there was a cover-up that was happening that nobody knew why. Almost 30 years later, it also came out that there was actually a Navy aircraft hovering above that scene. They did not come to the rescue. They did not report anything. There was also an American submarine close by. Did not come to the rescue. Did not report anything. So what the author is telling us is that LBJ, who was the president at that time, was nested in multiple games. As we keep saying here at the Fort Hall School of Government, and who was collateral damage. Intelligence officers.
Absolutely.
Wow, wow, wow. So many fatalities there. Very sad. So on a day where we had a winning headline from the Daily Nation, as well as a winning cartoon from the Daily Nation, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pan, Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Have a good weekend.